Hey guys, good morning and welcome back to another installment of 8th grade U.S. History with Mr. Compania. Today we get to be outside because it's a little bit warmer. All right, today we're going to be taking a look at slides 15 through 20 of our Jefferson, Madison, and Monroe notes. So if you want to go ahead and pause me for a second, go ahead and get those out. You want to get out your Jefferson, Madison, Monroe Google Slides, and you want to go ahead and get in the fill-in-the-blank notes, and we're going to do slides 15 through 20 today. So go ahead and get that out. All right, so once you get slide 15 open, you should see a big headline here with exclamation point saying pirates. Now, ultimately, a lot of times students get excited, I guess, when they see pirates, and it is what you're picturing. You have to understand that most shipping or trading during this time period is going to be done by boat. And so for criminals, these boats were an easy target. It has trade goods, it had money, it had slaves, it had all different things of value that were being shipped between different parts of the world. And so you will see pirates become a reality throughout almost every shipping lane in the world, whether it was the Caribbean, hence Pirates of the Caribbean that Disney put out, or there were pirates in the Atlantic Ocean and islands off the Carolinas, Virginia, and that type of area. There were a ton of pirates over in Africa and the Middle Eastern areas. So basically any major shipping route would have been a target for these individuals. Now, up until this point, Jefferson's presidency has been pretty peaceful. He hasn't had a lot of conflict. He's had the Louisiana Purchase. Things are going pretty well for him. But by the time he gets reelected in 1804, conflict is now looming, and from a couple different places that we'll talk about. But number one area is going to be pirates. All right, and so let's go ahead and click onto our slide 16. Now, slide 16 here should bring up a box. It says a crisis broke out that had been getting more and more severe during Jefferson's first term, and that is, yet again, pirates. So there's two things we're filling in here on our fill-in-the-blank notes. We're going to fill in a crisis. So crisis means some major problem or some major issue that is going to break out, and that crisis was, yet again, pirates. So pirates is what we're filling in. Now, if you want to go ahead and pause me, you can click on pirates, and it's got a hyperlink YouTube video for you there. If you want to go ahead and check it out, I'll see you when you're done. All right, welcome back. So if you go ahead and click onto our next box on slide 16, it is going to bring up a box that says pirates from the Barbary States, which is northern Africa, had continually charged bribes to leave alone traveling merchants for years. U.S. had always paid these bribes. So pirates is, yet again, what we're filling in our blank notes there. And then the second thing we're filling in out of that box is the Barbary States. Now, Barbary States don't exist anymore. There is no place that's known as the Barbary States. But at one point in time, in the 1800s, they were a loose collection of kingdoms that would kind of help each other out. They were known as the Barbary States. In modern times, these states are now known as Algeria, Tunisia, and Morocco. So if you look at a map today in northern Africa, those are the countries that you're going to see. But at one point in time, they were known as the Barbary States. Now, these places were relatively poor. They had a couple cities, they had a little bit of farming, but for the most part, how they made their money was essentially by being pirates. They would go out into the Mediterranean Sea and the Atlantic Ocean, and they would attack boats from France, Britain, America, and other places that were trading. As a way to kind of combat this, the European countries eventually just started paying the Barbary States basically ransom or bribes to leave their boats alone. And so this becomes major practice. The United States would essentially pay these African pirates to leave American boats alone. And that's how America operated really from the beginning. Under Washington and Adams and early Jefferson years, they paid the bribes. All right, let's go ahead and bring up slide 16 here. But now we start to run into problems right around 1803, 1804. The pirates kind of realize that America is making some money. We have things like the Louisiana Purchase going on, and we are increasing our kind of wealth within the world. And so the pirates decide to increase the bribe. All right, they basically see a target. They say, well, if the United States is making more money, we can charge them more. And so the pirates will increase. Increased is what you're filling in your notes, by the way. The bribe. Jefferson looks at this and he thinks it's ludicrous. He says, look, we were paying the money that you were asking for. We were cooperating. Now you're asking us for more. And Jefferson kind of knows that if he keeps giving in, these pirates are going to continually keep kind of upping the price or making it more difficult to pay. And so Jefferson outright refuses. He says, look, I'm not paying you. I'm not giving in to this bribe. So ultimately, what's the pirates' reaction to this? Well, they can't just give in and let Jefferson roll over on them, because other countries are going to do the same thing. So the pirates basically vow to attack all American boats, which they do. Jefferson will respond with America's first military show of force since the Revolution. We don't view it as a war, because I don't know if Congress really declared war, because the Barbary States were a loose collection, but essentially Jefferson will go to war with these kingdoms. And it is a 4-year war, mostly at sea, mostly naval. It breaks out with these Barbary pirates. Now, once you clicked on a little box came up and said that, you should fill in a 4-year war. So it's 4 years long that we are fighting essentially in northern Africa. Interesting side note here, this is actually the birth of the American Marine Corps. Okay, because most of the battle was fought at sea, but occasionally they would have to make landfall and fight there. They developed the Marines, which are essentially a fighting force that starts on boats, but can also fight on land. And so this becomes pivotal in this war. And so the next box we clicked came up, says the U.S. Marines in one of their earliest raids attacked Tripoli and led to a peace treaty. So essentially, the United States will use our naval ships to get close to North Africa. We will then use the United States Marines to land on the coast of these Barbary states, and then the U.S. Marines essentially storm the capital of these Barbary states, which was a city called Tripoli. And we basically hold that city hostage and force these Barbary pirates to sign a peace treaty with us to leave American boats alone. So that last box there, you should have filled in U.S. Marines. All right, so this is the birth of the U.S. Marine Corps. Now, if you click one more time, it said the U.S. agreed to one last and final bribe, which essentially pays off those pirates and gets them to leave American boats alone. What we're filling in out of that box is one last bribe. Bribe is what we're filling in. We give one final payment, and it is peace with the Barbary States. And essentially, Jefferson navigates America's first military use of force in history, where we defeat the Barbary pirates. Now, if we continue on, you click and it should bring up a box that says impressment continues. Now, we have talked about the idea of impressment before. This is when a country basically kidnaps or seizes soldiers or sailors and forces them into their military. And remember, Britain and France are both doing this to American sailors. They're seizing American boats and they're forcing those sailors into the British or France army. All right? So if we go ahead and click, it says Britain continued to impress U.S. merchants as they traveled to French ports. Got to remember that Napoleon is still waging war with Europe. And so Britain and France are still at war with each other. So Britain continues to impress U.S. merchants and as they travel to French ports. Impress is what you're filling in there. And so essentially the British are kidnapping American sailors and forcing them into their navy. The other box over on the right there says even opening fire on a trade vessel and killing 3 Americans. So you can see the violence is increasing between the two sides to the point where the British were opening fire on American vessels, killing Americans, which will increase the tension between the two. In that box, you are filling in 3. So 3 Americans is all you need to do. So Jefferson is kind of stuck. He says, look, I'm getting attacked by pirates, I'm getting attacked by the British, I'm getting attacked by the French, and we really don't have the naval forces to compete. And so Jefferson has to figure out some sort of solution to this issue. So if you click onto the last box here for this slide, it says Jefferson responds by ending all foreign trade, known as the Embargo Act. And so literally Jefferson's solution here is to stop trading with everyone. He literally makes it illegal for American boats to trade in Africa, Europe, or anywhere outside of the continental United States. That is the solution. He basically says, well, if everybody attacks our boats, our solution to the issue is going to be us just not going anywhere. Kind of like the solution we're in with this coronavirus. Since the virus is on the outside community, we just stop going anywhere. Just like Jefferson saw the outside world is a threat, so he stops American boats from going anywhere. So first thing we're filling in there is the Embargo Act. And actually, if you want to go ahead and click on that, that is a hyperlink there. So go ahead and click on Embargo Act. You can pause me and you can check it out. All right, welcome back. So this Embargo Act is effective because it keeps American boats from being targets because they're not going out in the ocean, they're not going out in the open world. But the problem here is Jefferson didn't really think this thing through. By shutting down American boats from going anywhere in the world, it is effective in protecting them. But what it did was it shut down American business. All right, and so this Embargo Act ends all trade and devastates the economy. Devastates is the second thing we're filling in there. And what this literally means is with no trade, there was no way for merchants to make money. And so essentially, there was nowhere for farmers to sell their crops. And so the American economy falls apart. Jefferson is effective in protecting the boats, but he's ineffective in basically bankrupting the American economy for a number of years. So obviously Americans are not going to be too happy about that action. So if we go ahead and click, it should bring up a little chart here. And this chart basically shows you the amount of foreign trade in the United States during this time period. And you can see the points where this Embargo Act was passed, which was 1806, 1807. And you can see that sharp drop in American trade. So imagine the economic impact that that is going to have as we look on that chart. That is how much less people were making money and how much American boats or American shipping companies weren't making. If you go ahead and click, it actually circles the area I was talking about on your chart there. Click it one more time, it should bring up some boxes. So the first box here says the goal was to protect Americans, but Jefferson underestimated, and that's what we're filling in, underestimated how much businesses needed foreign trade. And so as a result, we see factories closing down, farmers go bankrupt, and essentially the American economy slows down. Click it one more time and it should bring up a yellow box in the bottom right, and this says that eventually Jefferson will replace the Embargo Act with what becomes known as the Non-Intercourse Act, which sounds silly or dirty, but it is not, I promise. It is replaced with Non-Intercourse Act that reopened trade to all of Europe except Britain and France. So this is Jefferson's solution. You are filling in that box, the Non-Intercourse Act, and then you're filling in the except Britain and France. So essentially Jefferson finds a compromise here. He is willing to trade with the outside world with the exception of Britain and France, and this lasts for a temporary period of time to try to protect American boats, but at the same time allow the American economy to operate. This is only partially effective. It does protect American boats to a degree, but Britain and France still target them. And then on top of that, the American economy does recover slightly, but it's not as much as Jefferson really had hoped. And ultimately, American businesses continue to suffer because they lack trade partners. All right, so that should have finished up slide 20 for us. That's going to be the end there of the Jefferson Madison Monroe notes for today. You should be up to slide 20 in your PowerPoints. Enjoy your spring break, and I will talk to you guys when we get back. All right, take care, be well, be safe. Bye.